Kubota's KX040 is a machine you simply can't get around in the North American compact excavator market. If you've spent any time on job sites in the United States, you've seen it, that bright orange paint, the tight footprint, a little over 4 tons of operating weight, yet more punch than you'd expect from something this size. It is Kubota's single best-selling compact excavator in North America, bar none. Most people know it works well. What they don't know is how it came to be, and that its name carries the trace of a rather bold naming overhaul Kubota once pulled off. All of that is worth telling from the beginning. First, a word about the company. A lot of people assume Kubota only makes small equipment, but its history stretches back much further than most realize. The company was founded in 1890, more than 30 years before Caterpillar, and started out making cast iron pipes and water pumps. It later moved into agricultural machinery, where its tractors became enormously successful and put down deep roots across the farming world. It was precisely this agricultural machinery foundation that gave Kubota 2 things ready-made when it entered the compact excavator business: decades of accumulated expertise in small displacement diesel engines, and a dealer network already spread across the globe for a 4-ton mini excavator. Those 2 things happen to be the most critical competitive advantages you can have. Kubota entered the compact excavator space in the late 1970s and early 1980s, starting in the Japanese market, then gradually expanding into North America and Europe. By the 1990s, it had a solid foothold in the North American compact excavator market. Its representative model in the 4-ton class at that time was the KX040. The KX040 was a very early compact excavator, simple in structure, limited in features, and extremely rare on the used market today. But it was the starting point for this entire product line. What truly made Kubota a legend in North America was the generation after the KX040, called the KX121. The KX121 achieved enormous success in the American market. It went through several iterations, from the original KX121 to the KX121-2 to the KX121-3, spanning roughly 20 years. The KX121-3 in particular, sold from approximately 2003 through the mid-2010s, was the single highest volume model in Kubota's entire North American history. Even today, you can find large numbers of KX121-3s circulating on the used market, and parts for them are available just about everywhere. For a great many small American construction crews, plumbing contractors, and landscaping companies, the KX121 was the very first compact excavator they ever owned. Here is something that trips up a lot of people and needs explaining. The 121 in KX121 does not represent the machine's tonnage. Many people encountering Kubota model numbers for the first time assume a KX121 is a 12-ton machine. It absolutely is not. The KX121-3's actual operating weight is just over 4 tons. In Kubota's early naming system, 121 was simply a product sequence number with no direct relationship to tonnage. During the same era, Kubota also had models like the KX91 and the KX161, corresponding to roughly the 3-ton and 5-ton classes respectively. But you could never guess that from the names alone. Kubota eventually decided this naming convention wasn't working. Around the mid-2010s, the company carried out a comprehensive naming reform across its product line. From that point on, the numbers in new generation model names corresponded directly to tonnage class: KX033, roughly 3.3 tons, KX040, roughly 4 tons, KX057, roughly 5 tons, KX080, roughly 8 tons. You look at the name and you know how heavy it is. Simple and clear. The generational replacement relationships that accompanied this renaming went like this. The KX91-3 was replaced by the KX0334. The KX121-3 was replaced by the KX044. And the KX161-3 was replaced by the KX0574. When Kubota officially launched the KX044, it explicitly stated that the KX044 replaces the KX121-3. So in terms of lineage, the KX044 is the next generation KX121. The 2 machines share similar engine specifications, Similar overall dimensions, similar digging capabilities, and many of their undercarriage parts are even interchangeable. In the United States, many parts dealers file the KX121-3 and KX044 under the same product family. If you want to remember just one simple correspondence, it is this: KX121-3 equals the old KX040, KX044 equals the new KX121, and KX045 equals the latest generation, KX040. The KX044 generation is the model with by far the largest circulation on the used market today, and it is the machine most people picture when they hear the name KX040. Its operating weight is approximately 4.1 tons, under 10,000 pounds. That number has a very practical significance in the United States. Below 10,000 pounds means that in many states, you don't need a commercial driver's license to tow it on the road. For a one-person contractor, that alone saves a great deal of hassle. The engine is a 4-cylinder diesel built by Kubota itself, rated at roughly 40-some horsepower, meeting Tier 4 emission standards. Compared with the previous KX121-3, the KX044 made a major engine upgrade, jumping from Tier 3 to Tier 4, adding common rail fuel injection, exhaust gas recirculation, and a diesel particulate filter. That sounds like a lot more complexity, but the payoff is tangible. Fuel consumption came down. Kubota equipped it with a system called Eco Plus, offering a standard mode and an economy mode. Standard mode uses roughly 12% less fuel than the KX121-3. Switch to economy mode and it saves another 9%. Altogether, about 20% less fuel than the previous generation. For a machine that runs on a job site every day, the savings over a year add up to a visible difference. The hydraulic system also received improvements. The KX044 has an auxiliary hydraulic circuit that can power various attachments: hydraulic breakers, augers, grapples, and so on. There is also a hydraulic diverter valve that lets you switch to a second attachment without disconnecting your primary one, saving the trouble of swapping hoses. Automatic idle is standard as well. Stop operating for more than 4 seconds, and the engine speed drops on its own, saving fuel, reducing noise, and cutting emissions, all at once. The cab is one of the areas where the KX044 made the most noticeable progress over the previous generation. Kubota's marketing described it as a 4-ton machine with a cab that feels like it belongs on a class larger. The entrance is wider, the legroom is more generous, the seat is upgraded, and the heating and air conditioning ducting was redesigned. Many owners who moved up from a KX121-3 to a KX044 report that the cab is noticeably quieter and more comfortable. That said, there are complaints too. For larger framed operators, the cab still feels a bit tight. The pilot control levers slightly obstruct entry and exit, and the instrument panel and engine hood design partially block the view of the dozer blade. These are minor gripes that don't stop you from getting the job done, but over long hours they do get annoying. The KX044 comes in several configurations, which is standard practice in the North American market. By cab type, there is an open canopy version and an enclosed cab version. By dozer blade, there is a standard straight blade, a hydraulic angle blade, and a 6-way blade. The angle blade can swing 25 degrees left or right, which is especially useful when backfilling trenches. You don't have to keep repositioning the machine. The 6-way blade adds the ability to tilt 10 degrees to either side on top of the angle function, making fine grading work easier. In export markets, customer preferences vary by region. Southeast Asian buyers typically prefer the enclosed cab version. North American and European buyers favor the angle blade. Australian buyers like the 6-way blade, and African buyers tend toward the less expensive open canopy version. On the anti-theft front, the KX044 comes with Kubota's own anti-theft system. Only a coded key can start the engine, and an uncoded key triggers an alarm. This is genuinely useful on North American job sites, where compact excavator theft is not uncommon. In 2025, Kubota launched the KX045. The latest generation, the KX045 belongs to Kubota's all-new -5 series and received a fairly comprehensive upgrade inside and out. The hydraulic system is a completely new design, with improvements in both control finesse and response speed over the previous generation. Inside the cab, there is a 7-inch LCD display, Bluetooth connectivity, and keyless start. No more fishing for a key and turning it. Just press a button and fire it up. Kubota also fitted it with a remote management system called Kubota, which lets owners check the machine's location, operating hours, and fault codes from their phone, making fleet management more convenient. The cab is quieter than the KX044, and the interior space is slightly larger. Engine power is close to the KX044, without a dramatic change, but the overall operating experience is noticeably improved. The design philosophy behind this generation isn't about chasing hard specifications like horsepower or digging force, but rather about refining the softer side of the experience, how comfortable it is to use and how convenient it is to manage. The KX045 likewise comes in open canopy and enclosed cab versions, with angle blade and six-way blade options. Because it only recently hit the market, its volume on the used market is still very low, with far fewer units in circulation than the KX044. But it is safe to expect that over time it will gradually take over from the KX044 as the mainstay in this tonnage class. Now, let's talk about how this machine actually performs and what its reputation looks like in the real world. In the North American market, the KX040 series main competitors are the John Deere 50G, the Caterpillar 304, and the Yanmar Vio 45. Against these rivals, the Kubota KX040 holds three core advantages. The first is reliability. The word that comes up most often in the North American reputation of Kubota compact excavators is reliable. Owner after owner reports the same thing. This machine is low maintenance and low drama. Keep up with the scheduled service, and it just keeps working without causing headaches. A big part of this comes from Kubota's engine technology. It uses an engine it designed and manufactured itself, not one sourced from an outside supplier, so the integration and reliability are both well assured. The second is resale value. Kubota compact excavators hold their value on the used market at a level that ranks among the very highest in the class. A KX044 with 2,000 or 3,000 hours on it can sell for 60% of the new machine price, or even higher. For small contractors, this matters enormously. They're not just buying a piece of equipment to use, they're making an investment. When the time comes to trade up, being able to get a strong price for the old machine effectively lowers the total cost of ownership. The third is the dealer network. Kubota's dealer network across North America is exceptionally dense, a legacy of the deep foundation it built over decades in the agricultural machinery business. Many of the dealers who sell Kubota tractors also sell Kubota excavators. That means you can find parts and service even in out-of-the-way places. Unlike some brands where leaving a major metro area means leaving their service coverage behind. Of course, the KX040 is not without its weak spots. The issue that comes up most often is the regeneration system. Because the KX044 runs a Tier 4 engine with a diesel particulate filter, that filter needs periodic regeneration, essentially burning off the accumulated particulate matter inside it. Kubota designed an automatic regeneration function, and under normal conditions the machine handles it on its own without the operator needing to do anything. But in certain operating conditions, extended low load idling, or frequent short start cycles, the automatic regeneration may not complete fully, and a manual regeneration or even a forced regeneration at the dealer becomes necessary. The problem isn't serious, but for operators unfamiliar with Tier 4 engines, the first time it happens can be a bit alarming. The second common issue is hydraulic line seepage. Some higher-hour KX044 units develop slight oil weeping at hydraulic fitting connections, usually caused by aging O-rings. Swapping the seals fixes it. It is not a major repair, but if left unattended, the leak only gets worse. The third is rubber track wear. The KX044 comes standard with rubber tracks. And on asphalt or gravel surfaces, they wear considerably faster than steel tracks. Many owners who work primarily on hard surfaces opt to switch to steel tracks, but steel tracks add weight that may push the machine over 10,000 pounds, at which point a commercial driver's license is needed to tow it. That is a trade-off that requires some thought. The fourth involves a few ergonomic details in the cab. As mentioned earlier, larger framed operators find the cab somewhat cramped. The dozer blade line of sight is partially blocked by the instrument panel and engine hood, so fine grading sometimes requires opening the door to see the edges of the blade, and the skylight uses 3 small panes of glass rather than a single large piece like on the bigger KX057, which slightly limits upward visibility when hoisting. These are minor dissatisfactions that don't affect the work itself, but if Kubota addresses them in the next generation, owners will certainly appreciate it. A few things about the company itself are worth mentioning. Kubota's founder was Ganshiro Kubota, who established the company in Osaka in 1890. He started out as a foundry worker, built his way up through skill and tenacity, and step by step grew the company from cast iron pipes into an industrial group spanning agricultural machinery, construction equipment, water treatment, and piping systems. There is a phrase in Japanese business culture, monozukuri, that roughly translates to the spirit of making things, the drive to build something well, build it with precision, and push it as far as it can go. That spirit is especially visible at Kubota. The company never chased after being the biggest excavator maker or the most technologically advanced. It simply locked onto the compact lane, committed to making small equipment better than anyone else in the world, and built its business on that. Kubota also created an industry first in the compact excavator world. It was the first manufacturer to mass-produce a zero-tail swing compact excavator. Zero-tail swing means that when the upper structure rotates, the rear of the machine does not extend beyond the width of the tracks, so it won't swing into adjacent walls, pipes, or bystanders. This design is critically important when working in tight spaces. Nearly every compact excavator manufacturer eventually adopted this concept, but the first to bring it to market was Kubota. There is another interesting detail, Kubota's orange paint. In construction machinery, every brand has its signature color. Caterpillar is yellow. John Deere is green. Komatsu is a deeper yellow. Hitachi is an orange leaning toward red. Kubota's orange is exceptionally bright and instantly recognizable on any job site. The story goes that the color choice traces back to Kubota's long history in agricultural machinery in the fields. A vivid orange is both highly visible and unlikely to blend in with crops, serving as a safety signal. That color was later carried over to the construction equipment line and became Kubota's visual trademark. From the KX41 to the KX121, from the KX121-3 to the KX044, and on to today's KX045, this product line spans more than 30 years. If you had to sum up the reason for the KX040 series' success in a single sentence, it would match the character of the company itself. It isn't the biggest, it isn't the most powerful, it isn't the flashiest, but it is reliable, easy to use, low hassle, and when you are done with it, you can still get a good price. For many small construction outfits across North America, a single KX040 is the entire operation. With that one machine, they dig trenches, lay pipe, demolish foundations, do landscaping. They can take on just about any job. It doesn't need a large trailer. It doesn't need a commercial license. It doesn't need a dedicated mechanic riding along. One person can run it. And when something breaks, you drive to the nearest Kubota dealer and swap a part. This business model, one person, one machine, one livelihood, is extraordinarily common in North America, and the KX040 was built precisely for it. That is why, across the entire North American compact excavator market, the KX040 series has held the top sales position. It doesn't win on any single jaw-dropping specification. It wins by being good enough at every detail, and then being the best at reliability and resale value. For a machine that someone depends on to make a living, that is the most practical competitive advantage there is. Kubota figured this out and delivered on it. From the KX41 more than 30 years ago to today's KX045. What it has been refining all along is really one and the same thing: how to keep one person, one machine, and one business running for a very long time.